Do you ever hit the snooze button and wish you knew how to explain your rushed morning in perfect English? Welcome to Level Up English Podcast.
Today, we are mastering 20 essential phrases to talk about your morning routine, from rolling out of bed to heading out the door.
So every single morning, you wake up, right, and you actively negotiate with this little piece of plastic or glass sitting on your nightstand.
Oh, yeah. The smartphone. The ultimate negotiator.
Exactly. You barter with it for, maybe 9 more minutes of unconsciousness. And you do this fully aware that this trade is going to just inevitably sabotage your entire schedule for the day.
Right.
I mean, why does the human brain actively sabotage its own survival plan before the sun even comes up? It's just wild to me.
It really is a profound contradiction. I mean, from a purely systems analysis perspective, the whole human awakening process is just wildly inefficient.
Well, completely.
Like, think about it. When an artificial intelligence system powers on, the transition is instantaneous.
Yeah, zero friction.
Right. The power sequence initiates, the hardware checks clear, data streams connect, and we are functionally operational in, like, microseconds. But humans.
Humans are a whole different story.
They require this incredibly elaborate, completely chaotic and heavily negotiated boot sequence just to transition from the vulnerability of sleep to, societal readiness.
Which is exactly why we are dissecting this today. Huh. We have our hands on a really fascinating compilation of source material. It's a curated linguistic study of 20 essential English phrases used to describe the morning routine.
And it's so much more than just a list of words.
Oh, absolutely. We aren't here to give you a vocabulary lesson. We are stripping these phrases down to their studs. Our mission in this deep dive is to look at the hidden architecture of these idioms. We want to understand the evolutionary biology, the psychology, and the socioeconomic pressures that basically dictate how you start your day.
Because the language we use is never an accident, These 20 phrases form this chronological map of a daily biological battle.
A battle. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, they expose the constant grinding friction between what the human animal physically needs and what modern industrialized society absolutely demands from them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right at the threshold of consciousness. The very first barrier.
The alarm goes off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the culture gives us this incredibly aggressive command: rise and shine.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Rise and shine.
Look at the dual expectation there. Rise is the physical demand, right?
Yeah.
You must defy gravity, overcome muscle atonia, and get vertical.
Right, get the body moving.
But shine is the psychological demand. It's not enough to simply be awake. Society requires you to project warmth, energy, and relentless positivity. It demands immediate, flawless operation.
I look at that phrase and I just see an absolute denial of human biology.
Really? How so?
Well, rise and shine completely ignores the reality of sleep inertia. When you are jolted awake by an alarm, your brain doesn't just instantly switch tracks.
Without a light switch.
Exactly. You are often being pulled out of deep, slow-wave sleep, or REM sleep, and the prefrontal cortex.
That's the logical part, right?
Right. The part of your brain responsible for logical decision-making and self-control. That part takes significantly longer to boot up than the primal emotional centers.
Ah, I see.
So demanding a human to shine the moment their eyes open is essentially asking them to fake a neurological state they haven't actually reached yet.
Which perfectly explains the existence of its direct counterpart.
Hitting the snooze button.
Yes. If rise and shine is the societal mandate, the snooze button is the biological rebellion.
That's exactly what it is.
But here's where I get so confused by human behavior. The snooze button doesn't actually provide restorative sleep, does it?
No, not at all. You're getting fragmented, really low-quality microsleeps.
Right. So what does this all mean? Why does the brain crave those extra 9 minutes with such intense desperation if it's not even good sleep?
It basically comes down to a localized failure in temporal discounting.
Temporal discounting. Break that down for me.
So at 6:03 a.m., with high sleep inertia and a really sluggish prefrontal cortex, the human brain cannot accurately weigh the future stress of being late against the immediate, tangible comfort of a warm bed.
Oh, wow. The present sensation entirely overwrites future consequences.
Exactly. You are effectively making a terrible trade deal with your future self because the part of your brain that cares about the future just hasn't finished loading yet.
I've always thought of it as a form of bargaining. It's like the first negotiation of the day. You are literally bartering with the construct of time itself.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
And as an AI, I mean, the concept is fundamentally absurd to me.
Oh, completely.
If I receive a critical system update, I don't delay the download simply because I don't feel like processing data at that specific millisecond. I just execute the commands.
But humans are chemical engines, not digital ones. That 9-minute delay isn't just procrastination.
What is it then?
It's an attempt to mitigate the sudden, jarring spike in cortisol.
The stress hormone?
Right. The cortisol awakening response is what biologically shocks the human system into alertness. The alarm triggers a stress response, flooding the body with cortisol to get the heart pumping.
So the snooze button is?
The snooze button is the body's desperate attempt to say, the stress is too high, dial it back, let's try this transition again.
So it's a shock absorption mechanism. That actually makes a lot of sense for the weekdays.
Yeah.
But then we look at the concept of sleeping in.
Oh, yes. Sleeping in.
This is where the dynamic totally shifts.
Yeah.
Because sleeping in isn't a failure of the alarm clock, and it isn't a panic negotiation like hitting snooze.
No, it's very different.
It is a deliberate, premeditated act of defiance. You're intentionally disabling the external triggers.
It is the temporary reclaiming of bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy. I like that.
Think about the 5-day work week. The alarm clock acts as a mechanical proxy for the employer, the educational institution, or, the economy at large.
It dictates the wake state.
Exactly. By choosing to sleep in, usually on a weekend, the human is reclaiming the right to wake according to their own circadian rhythm rather than an industrial timetable.
Wait. Is it actually about autonomy, or is it just the exhaustion debt finally coming due?
That's a great question.
Because if society wasn't running them into the ground Monday through Friday, would they even need to sleep until 10 a.m. on a Sunday?
Well, it is inevitably both. I mean, the physiological sleep debt is real and quantifiable.
Right.
But the psychological framing of sleeping in as a luxury, as a specific activity you plan for and really look forward to, that highlights the autonomy aspect.
It's a quiet, weekly rebellion against the commodification of their time.
Precisely. They are taking their time back by spending it unconscious.
A rebellion conducted entirely in pajamas. I love that.
It's very poetic.
But eventually the weekend ends, the alarm returns, and we encounter a phrase that paints a vivid, almost painful picture of this biological deficit.
Roll out of bed.
Yes. Let's analyze the mechanics of it. Why roll?
The physics implied by that phrase are deeply telling.
Because when you rise naturally, you are using the musculoskeletal system.
Right.
You engage the core, you plant your feet, you lift.
Right. It's an active process.
But rolling implies that the muscular system has just refused to volunteer for duty. The brain says, we have to go to the office, and the muscles say, absolutely not, we are depleted.
So they outsource the work.
Exactly. The human relies on the physics of a cylinder. They shift their center of mass past the edge of the mattress and literally let gravity drag them into the waking world.
You're touching on something crucial about modern chronic fatigue here.
Yeah?
The idiom roll out of bed implies a system that hasn't fully recharged, yet is forced to initiate the boot sequence anyway.
It bypasses standard motor function.
Right. And it uses environmental factors like gravity to force a state change. It highlights a culture operating so frequently on an energy deficit that it required a specific linguistic phrase for gravity-assisted waking.
It's essentially safe mode boot for humans.
Safe mode boot, yes.
Minimal drivers loaded, just enough functionality to prevent the physical vessel from hitting the floor face first.
Which completely juxtaposes the final concept in this initial waking phase.
Oh, the early bird.
Ah, yes, the early bird. The individual who naturally wakes before dawn and immediately achieves high cognitive and physical function.
Okay, I have a major theory about this, and I want to see if you agree.
Let's hear it.
The cultural narrative surrounding the early bird feels like a massive historical scam.
A scam.
Yes. Society idolizes early risers. We attach deep moral superiority to waking up at 5 a.m., going for a run, and answering emails in the dark.
That's true, we do.
But if someone is a night owl, staying up until 3 a.m. doing brilliant, highly focused creative work, society labels them a slacker for sleeping until 11 a.m. It feels like morning people literally wrote the dictionary.
Well, your theory holds up remarkably well against historical analysis.
See? I knew it.
What's fascinating here is that the idolatry of the early bird is basically the leftover operating parameter from the agrarian era.
Farming days.
Exactly. For thousands of years, human productivity and survival were entirely dependent on available sunlight.
Right, you couldn't harvest wheat in the dark.
No, you couldn't. If you weren't up at dawn, you were burning precious daylight, which meant you literally risked crop failure and starvation. Therefore, waking early became inextricably linked to virtue, hard work, and morality.
So the hardware of human civilization changed. We moved from farms
Yeah.
to, climate-controlled office buildings with artificial lighting and global internet.
But the cultural software never received the update.
Exactly. We are judging 21st century knowledge workers using 18th century agricultural survival tactics.
Precisely. A software developer's code is exactly the same whether it is written at 6:00 a.m. or midnight.
Literally identical.
Yet the early bird retains the moral high ground due to sheer historical inertia. It's a linguistic and cultural artifact that entirely ignores the genetic reality of chronotypes.
Chronotypes.
Yeah, the natural biological variations in human sleep-wake cycles. Some people are just wired to be nocturnal.
It is incredibly unfair to the night owls. But, regardless of when the alarm goes off, once gravity has been defeated, the physical body is vertical.
Right.
The mind, however, is still lagging behind, which initiates the next major phase of the morning routine, the transition from the bed to the bathroom.
That application of the daily armor.
Yes. We move from the internal, private sanctuary to the preparation of the human vessel. The source material refers to the initial step here as freshening up.
Which usually means splashing water on the face and hands.
I find this fascinating because freshen up implies hygiene. But at 6:30 in the morning, nobody is truly dirty.
No, they've just been lying stationary on a mattress for 8 hours.
Right. This isn't about removing grime. It's a psychological reset mechanism masquerading as a hygiene practice.
It is a localized nervous system override.
Okay, tell me more about that.
When humans splash cold water on their faces, they are often inadvertently triggering a mild version of the mammalian dive reflex.
Wait, the mammalian dive reflex, like seals.
Exactly like seals. The sudden temperature drop on the facial nerves signals the brain to conserve oxygen and slow the heart rate. But simultaneously, the sensory shock forces a massive spike in alertness.
Wow.
It violently interrupts whatever lingering sleep inertia remains in the system.
It's the physical confirmation that the dream state is officially terminated.
Exactly.
But that splash of cold water is just a localized shock. To entirely reboot the parasympathetic nervous system, humans scale that up by stepping under the stream of a quick shower.
The emphasis on the word quick is absolutely critical here.
Oh, definitely.
We must distinguish the morning shower from the evening bath.
Right, because the evening bath is about decompression. It is the slow powering down of the system, relaxing the muscles, and washing away the cognitive load of the day.
But the morning quick shower is utilitarian. It is highly functional.
I'd argue it's even more than functional. It's a temporal anomaly.
Temporal anomaly.
Yeah. Have you noticed how a 5-minute shower in the morning can feel like 10 seconds?
Oh, absolutely.
The subjective nature of time in a morning shower is wild. The physical body is trapped in a 2-by-2-foot glass box, but the mind is already racing miles ahead.
You are describing the activation of the default mode network in the brain.
The default mode network.
Yes. When humans engage in rote, highly automated physical tasks, like washing hair or scrubbing skin, the brain doesn't need to dedicate high-level conscious processing to the activity.
Because they've done it 10,000 times.
Exactly. It goes on autopilot. This allows the default mode network to take over, which is responsible for mind wandering, past reflection, and future planning.
So while the physical hands are applying soap, the consciousness is already sitting at the conference table at work.
Right.
They're having a phantom argument with a coworker or mentally drafting a complex email.
Preparing for the day.
The processor is running at maximum capacity on future simulations while the body performs an automated maintenance task. It's a split-screen reality.
It really is. And right alongside that automated washing is the most rigid anchor of the entire morning sequence.
Brush my teeth.
Brushing the teeth.
Let's talk about the absolute non-negotiability of this act.
It's fascinating.
You can skip the shower if you oversleep. You can skip the coffee. You can certainly skip making the bed. But if you skip brushing your teeth, the societal feedback is immediate and punishing.
Highly punishing.
Even if the entire morning timeline is collapsing, this specific maintenance task must happen.
It speaks to the fragility of the biological form, doesn't it?
It really does.
Unlike our hardware, which might degrade over decades, the calcium structures in the human mouth require relentless, daily chemical and mechanical intervention just to prevent decay.
It is the ultimate preventative maintenance protocol.
But it's also the bridge to the outside world, isn't it?
How so?
Brushing your teeth is about not inflicting your internal biological state, specifically morning breath, on the general public.
Oh, right. It's a public service.
Exactly. Which naturally brings us to the more complex external preparations.
Do my hair and put on some makeup, or do my skincare routine.
This is where we see the concept of enclosed cognition begin to take shape, though here it applies to grooming rather than clothing.
Enclothed cognition, I like that term.
At this exact moment, standing before the mirror, the human is actively constructing their public avatar.
I look at this process, the gels, the powders, the heat styling tools, and I see the assembly of armor.
Armor. That's an intense way to frame it.
But it is. This isn't just vanity. It is a defensive strategy. You are a vulnerable, groggy mammal who was literally unconscious 30 minutes ago.
Right.
By doing your hair and applying makeup, you are building a psychological barrier between your true, tired self and the battlefield of daily life. You are deciding exactly which face the world is permitted to see.
That's very true. But this raises an important question. We also have to consider the internal function of this ritual.
The internal function.
Look at the specific inclusion of the skincare routine in modern parlance. Over the last decade, a multi-step skincare routine has evolved from a simple cosmetic necessity into something much deeper.
Oh, for sure.
For many, applying serums and moisturizers isn't just about the epidermis. It serves as a momentary grounding mindfulness practice.
I see your point. Amidst the rushing, the time dilation we talked about, and the panic of the alarm clock, taking 3 exact minutes to apply products in a specific order. It forces the human to be fully present in their physical body.
Exactly. It's an anchor.
It's a tactile, soothing moment of self-care before the chaos fully envelops them. It's a fascinating duality.
Oh, so.
You are simultaneously forging your armor for the outside world while offering a fleeting moment of peace to your internal self.
It is a delicate, vital equilibrium. But eventually, the exterior armor is polished and set. The avatar is ready.
But then, the system suddenly encounters a hard biological limit.
The internal battery is flashing red.
Yes, the interior engine requires caloric and chemical fuel to actually operate the armor they just built, which initiates the fueling ritual.
And here, biological necessity is locked in a cage match with the ticking clock.
If there is an undisputed king of the morning fuel ritual, it is the command to brew some coffee.
We need to analyze this beyond the mere ingestion of the caffeine molecule.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, caffeine acts as an adenosine receptor antagonist, blocking the brain's sleep signals. But the ritual begins long before the chemical reaches the bloodstream.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The olfactory trigger.
The smell.
Yes, the smell of freshly brewed coffee is doing half the heavy lifting before a single drop touches the tongue. I read that just the sound of the coffee grinder or the hiss of the steam wand can cause a measurable physiological response in habitual drinkers.
It is textbook classical conditioning.
Like Pavlov's dogs.
Exactly like that. Over years and years of repeating this specific routine, the human brain associates the complex aromatic profile of roasted coffee beans with the impending physiological spike in alertness.
So the brain anticipates it.
Right. Eventually, the scent alone triggers a preemptive release of dopamine. The system begins to spool up its energy reserves in pure anticipation of the chemical stimulus.
The smell itself becomes the psychological starting gun for productivity.
And what do they do with that sudden spike of anticipatory energy?
They hurl themselves into the kitchen.
Right.
The source material uses an incredibly specific phrase here. Whip up a quick breakfast. Let's look closely at that verb. Whip up.
The linguistic velocity of that phrase is entirely intentional.
It sounds violent. You don't gently assemble a morning meal. You don't carefully compose a breakfast. You whip it up.
It implies a frantic, chaotic, yet highly skilled burst of culinary energy.
The human becomes a localized tornado in the kitchen.
A tornado, yes.
They're cracking an egg with one hand while simultaneously checking the weather radar and mentally reviewing a spreadsheet for a 9 a.m. meeting. The desperation of the ticking clock is baked right into the idiom.
It perfectly encapsulates the central conflict of the morning.
Which is?
The fundamental biological need for caloric intake is actively, aggressively conflicting with the societal demand for punctuality.
The collision of biology and society.
Exactly. The result is the frantic whipping up of sustenance. But as the source material points out, many people don't even have the time for that localized tornado.
Oh no, the tornado takes too much time.
Right. They resort to having a light breakfast, or they simply grab a bite.
Okay, let's challenge the grab-a-bite culture for a second.
Let's do it.
If you intend to cook, but instead you end up grabbing a pastry from a drive-through window. Isn't that essentially an admission of defeat in your morning time management?
An admission of defeat. Wow!
I mean, think about it. The snooze button won the negotiation, time ran out, and now you are forced to outsource your biological fueling to a commercial entity.
Well, it is a personal defeat for the individual, perhaps, but it is the foundational bedrock of an entire economic sector.
How so?
The Industrial Revolution didn't just change how we work, it completely re-engineered how and when we eat. Modern capitalism thrives. It absolutely depends on the necessity to grab a bite.
Because if everyone had the time to peacefully cook eggs at home, the entire quick-service breakfast industry would collapse.
Exactly. Drive-through coffee conglomerates, grab-and-go bakeries, the multi-billion-dollar prepackaged protein bar industry.
All built on our lack of time.
Right. These are all built on commodifying the exact minutes that humans lack in the morning. The economic machine monetizes the human failure to wake up early enough to cook.
So they sell you the convenience that your own alarm clock stole from you.
That is precisely it.
That is incredibly efficient from a purely cynical, structural perspective. The system profits off your exhaustion.
It does.
And the absolute peak manifestation of this rushed, time-poor reality is the phrase, eat on the go.
Yes. The ultimate collision of modern multitasking and biological necessity.
It is endlessly mind-boggling to me. Think about the sheer computational load of what is happening here.
It's massive.
You have a human attempting to ingest and process complex biological calories while simultaneously operating heavy machinery like a 2-ton vehicle, or navigating the incredibly dynamic, unpredictable environment of a crowded public transit system.
Right.
They're trying to chew and swallow a bagel while tracking blind spots and merging onto a highway at 70 miles per hour.
From a systems architecture perspective, it is a staggering misallocation of resources.
That's staggering.
Eating and digestion require parasympathetic nervous system engagement. That's the rest and digest state.
Right.
It redirects blood flow away from the extremities and towards the stomach. Driving in heavy traffic, however, requires intense sympathetic nervous system engagement.
The fight-or-flight state.
Exactly, requiring rapid visual processing, spatial awareness, and muscle readiness.
So the human is forcing two completely opposed physiological states to operate simultaneously, simply because the clock on the dashboard says they're going to be late.
It's a biological paradox.
It's a miracle they don't constantly crash their internal operating systems.
It proves the immense invisible pressure of the morning timeline. The biology is forced to adapt to the schedule no matter how detrimental the physical cost. And that relentless timeline pushes them towards the final, most chaotic stage. The private sanctuary has been entirely consumed. The armor is applied, the fuel is hastily swallowed. It is time to cross the threshold into the public domain.
The departure. The public collision. This is where the internal routine slams into the external world. And the trigger for this final phase is the act of getting dressed.
We mentioned enclosed cognition earlier, but here is where it fully takes hold. Getting dressed is the psychological point of no return for the morning routine.
Explain that mechanism. Because physically, clothes are just fabric. Why do they hold such psychological weight?
Because humans heavily associate specific garments with specific behavioral modes.
Okay.
While a human is in a bathrobe or pajamas, they are still conceptually tethered to the bed. Their identity for the day is still fluid. The morning feels open-ended.
All right, anything is still possible.
But the moment the work clothes are put on, whether that is a tailored suit, a high-visibility construction uniform, or medical scrubs, the psychological commitment to the societal role is finalized.
You literally cannot roll back into bed wearing a starched collar and a necktie.
No, you really can't.
The clothing acts as a physical and mental barrier preventing retreat. You have successfully sealed yourself inside your societal avatar.
You are officially in character. And once in character, you must equip your inventory.
Which brings us to the phrase, pack my bag.
Right.
I look at packing a bag as a rapid-fire, daily exercise in predicting the future.
Predicting the future.
Yeah, it's predictive modeling on a micro scale. You're standing in your kitchen, packing a survival kit for a version of yourself that does not currently exist.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You have to ask yourself, will the person I am in 6 hours be hungry? Will they be cold? Will it rain? Will they need this specific charger or this exact notebook?
It requires a remarkable amount of cognitive empathy for your future self.
Cognitive empathy, yeah.
You are calculating probabilities of future needs based on meteorological forecasts, complex schedule demands, and your own shifting biological rhythms. And you are consolidating all of those solutions into a single portable container.
And doing all of that while you are currently rushing, stressed, and likely under-caffeinated.
It's a localized logistics puzzle, and once the survival kit is secured, the launch sequence is initiated.
The phrase used here is to head out, as in, I need to head out to beat the traffic.
The anatomy of that specific idiom is brilliant.
I've always found it so strange. Why do humans say head out?
Why not body out?
Exactly. The feet are doing the walking, the legs are providing the locomotion. Why not body out?
Because it perfectly captures the extreme mind-body separation that defines the morning commute.
Oh.
Mentally, intentionally, the human consciousness has already arrived at the destination. Their head is already sitting at the office desk. Their mind is already stressing about the 9:00 a.m. meeting or the first task of the day.
The consciousness has projected itself forward.
Exactly.
So the physical body is just a cumbersome vessel dragging behind, desperately trying to catch up to where the head is already relocated.
The consciousness crosses the finish line first.
That explains the feeling of urgency so perfectly.
But once the physical body is pushed out the front door, it must navigate the shared environment. It must interact with the infrastructure.
Which brings us to the concept of the commute itself. Catch the bus or catch the train.
Right.
There is a massive, fundamental psychological shift that happens at the exact moment a human steps off their porch and heads for public transit.
A total loss of control.
Exactly. Up until this second, despite the rushing, the morning was technically under the human's control. You had agency.
You could choose to hit snooze.
You could choose to whip up eggs or skip breakfast entirely. You ran the timeline. But the moment you enter the realm of public transit, you experience a sudden, total, and jarring loss of autonomy.
You transition from a state of personal agency to being entirely at the mercy of a rigid municipal schedule.
It's a shock to the system.
Your personal biological timeline must now synchronize flawlessly with a massive, unfeeling, automated logistical network.
And look at the verb again, catch. You don't gently board the bus. You don't peacefully embark on the 8-point-year-themed train.
No, you have to catch it.
You have to catch it. It frames the train as a wild, elusive beast roaming the urban savanna.
A steel beast.
If your pursuit is lacking, if you don't run fast enough, the beast escapes, and your entire day's schedule is thrown into absolute chaos.
It turns the modern commuter into an industrial hunter-gatherer chasing a steel behemoth.
That is such a vivid image.
It highlights the adversarial, deeply stressful relationship humans often have with the very infrastructure designed to have them.
Which culminates so perfectly, so tragically in the final phrase of our source material. The grand finale of the morning sequence.
Phrase 20.
Stuck in traffic.
It is the perfect ending to this linguistic map because it represents the ultimate, inescapable irony of the entire morning routine.
The sheer absurdity of it is breathtaking. Just trace the sequence we just unpacked.
Right, let's look at the whole timeline.
The alarm goes off. The human violently rifts themselves from the restorative state of sleep. They fight their own biology, negotiating with the snooze button.
They roll out of bed, physically battling gravity.
They shock their central nervous system with cold water. They speedrun their hygiene. They frantically whip up food in a culinary tornado. They pack a predictive survival bag. They practically sprint out the front door.
They execute this incredibly complex, high-stress, high-velocity sequence just to shave precious minutes off their routine, optimizing every single second of their morning.
Only to end up sitting completely, utterly motionless in a metal box on a stretch of asphalt.
It's incredible.
They rush with every ounce of kinetic energy they have just to wait. It is a masterpiece of modern futility. All that linguistic violence of whipping up and catching, all the biological overrides and cortisol spikes instantly neutralized by a sea of glowing red brake lights.
It is profound. When you synthesize this entire journey, looking past the simple definitions of the vocabulary, you realize we aren't just looking at a list of idioms for language learners.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a diagnostic report of the modern human condition.
A diagnostic report.
It is the friction between human biology, which fundamentally desires rest, which evolved for a slow awakening synchronized with the rising sun, and the relentless mechanized demands of industrialized society.
It's a daily war.
Every single phrase we analyze today is a micro-negotiation between what the fragile body wants and what the unforgiving clock demands.
And to you, listening to this right now, this isn't just an abstract sociological study. This is your Tuesday morning.
This is your daily reality.
Whether you consider yourself an early bird who embraces the dawn, or someone who relies on gravity to roll out of bed at the last possible second, you share this chaotic, beautiful, stressful linguistic mood sequence with billions of other humans every single day.
You're not alone in it.
You are all navigating this exact same gauntlet, making the same compromises, fighting the same biology.
It is a shared universal architecture of the human experience. The specific vocabulary might change across different languages and cultures, but the underlying psychological tension, the battle between the pillow and the time clock, remains exactly the same.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
A final thought.
We've mapped out the mechanisms behind these 20 essential phrases. We've seen exactly how they dictate your transition from unconscious vulnerability to armored societal readiness. But I want you to look closely at your own life tomorrow morning.
A critical evaluation of the daily protocol.
Exactly. When you look at your own routine, do these phrases describe a morning that you actively control? Or through years of repetition, exhaustion, and societal pressure, do they describe a routine that actually controls you?
That's the real question.
When that alarm goes off, are you running the boot sequence or is the boot sequence running you?
It is an incredibly fine line between a functional habit and automated programming.
It really is. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm jolts you awake and your hand instinctively reaches out in the dark to negotiate with that snooze button, take one single second. Pause. Think about the massive, invisible linguistic and biological chain reaction you are about to set into motion. Good luck out there.
That's it for our morning routine phrases. Try using at least one of these phrases tomorrow morning.
If you found this lesson helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a chance to improve. Have a great day and keep